See, when you complain, the tendency is to not think straight. There's always a tendency to exaggerate. Right? We have a tendency to exaggerate. You know, when I'm sure those of you that have brothers and sisters, when you were younger and you wanted to complain to your parents about your brother or sister, the tendency is always to exaggerate. Diba? Aminin. As if I'm the only one guilty of this, you know? All of us are guilty of this. We always tend to exaggerate every time. He says, all these years, listen, this is what the older brother said. He says, all these years, remember he's complaining, he said, all these years I have slaved for you. All these years. And never have I refused obedience. And you never even gave me a little goat. See, all these years, this is how the older brother saw his work. All these years I have slaved for you. It was an exaggeration. There were servants. Remember the father called the servants and said, put the ring on his finger and the robe on his back, sandals on his feet, and kill the fattened calf. He had servants to do the slaving away. This older son did not see himself more than a servant. He was a son, but he behaved like a servant. In that sense, the younger son was a little bit better because he says, give me my share. Only a son can say that. A servant would never say, give me my share of the inheritance. I mean, you would fire that servant for saying such a thing. But this young man, the younger son, knew his position in his father's heart. That he would even dare say. You know, that means he had an inkling his father would not refuse him. Because if he knew that the father would refuse him, he wouldn't even ask. Because aside from being rude, he would stay in bad light. He might become the black sheep of the family for even daring to ask such a thing. But you see, I think the younger son knew his father's heart a little bit more than the kuya, than the older son. And this younger son said, give me my share, my share. He didn't say, give me some of your money. He said, give me my share. It wasn't even his to begin with yet, not yet. At least not until the father dies. But he already put his markers around it and said, give me my share. The older son was upset and said, all these years I've slaved for you. You know what? That means he did not enjoy what he was doing, even though he was in his father's presence. He said he never disobeyed. You know what? It's possible to obey God and not love Him. It's possible to obey Him and not even know Him. We're so busy obeying Him, we don't have time to be with Him. This older son simply saw the dad as his supplier, perhaps, provider, and boss, perhaps. Nothing really much more than that. And when he dies, at least I'll have my share of his money. But he complained. He complained. It is possible to be obedient with a wrong attitude. As this son very clearly portrays. Now, I'm not against obedience, by the way, as long as obedience is not the goal. This son saw obedience as the goal. I have never disobeyed you. I have never refused you. It was the goal. That was his basis for his complaint. He never said, I have loved you all these years, and you've never shown me love back by giving me. See, that was not the basis. The basis was not love. The basis was obedience. And what he's saying is, I deserve this. I deserve the goat. And you didn't even give me that goat. See? And you know what? There are too many believers that are like, perhaps more like the older son than the prodigal son. it almost seems like we start out as a prodigal son and we grow up to be the older son. And both have their faults, for sure. Both have their faults. One did not know how to handle money. The other one did not know how to handle work. And both were separated from their father. One geographically, one was separated in his heart from his daddy. Obedience must always be the fruit. It must be the fruit of a love relationship with a father. But you see, the attitude of the son, the older son, talks about how he saw his dad and how he saw himself. By his words, he betrayed that lack of relationship. They lived under the same roof. He worked in the same ranch or whatever business they had. But he behaved like a servant. The third reaction of the son was he whined. He just whined. He was saying, this son of yours. He didn't say, my brother. He said, this son of yours. In other words, I don't have anything to do with him. If I can, I want to disown him as my brother and as your son after what he did. Naiingit ako, sana ako yun. In effect, that's what he was saying. He couldn't say it, but in his heart, he envied his younger brother. But the thing is, he says, after this son of yours squandered your money. I want you to see something here. First of all, he has not interviewed his brother. He said, oh, brother, how are you? How was your life away from home? He didn't interview him. He didn't talk to him. He didn't even want to see him. And yet he assumed to the point of accusation, saying, after he squandered. Now, squander is a very strong word. He didn't use the word spend. He didn't use the word invest. He didn't use the word lose. He used the word squander, which speaks of irresponsibility. There was an accusation of irresponsibility. And then he says, your money. The difference between the older son and the younger son was this. The younger son said, give me my share. The older son says, your money. The younger son was really more part of the family. He was more part of the family.